See some of our team members hopping in now. ChainlinkGod, Jen, good to see you.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, thank you. Sorry, CLG. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Should be exciting.
Should we give it a few minutes? You got all your team, Josh?
Yeah, you know what? It's actually really hard to scroll through the Twitter Spaces audience. I'm trying to find them. It's tough.
Let's see. I have an Alex.
If they request to speak, they'll be at the top, so it'll be easier to find them.
Ah, perfect.
Yeah, if you're on the Celsius X team, and if you'd like to come up onto the stage, please request so then you come to the top and we can bring you up here. All right, cool. Let me just double check, see if Carl is here as well. All right, I think Carl's trying to hop on here in a second. But in the meantime, Jen, perhaps you can take it away. And as soon as Carl comes up, I'll bring him on.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jen. I'm super excited to be here today. Obviously, famous CLG is joining us and the team behind Celsius X. Josh, thank you for organizing this with me. If you wouldn't mind, I was thinking maybe you could just kind of quick introduce yourself and maybe the team behind Celsius X.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, hey everyone, my name is Josh. I'm the program manager for the Celsius X team. I'm joined here today with a majority of our team members. So just as a brief intro, Celsius X is the DeFi engineering arm of Celsius Network. We, by and large, build technology and infrastructure that'll allow our Celsius users to go from their current existing retail app that they know today into the DeFi world. In addition to that, we're hoping to build infrastructure to be able to allow for blockchain interoperability through a cross-chain liquidity bridge and some other cool things as well. So as far as the team members that are joining us today, we have Carl Hua, who's currently on the desktop and he's trying to get on mobile so he can get on stage. He's the chief architect of our team who started up the team earlier this year. And we also have a number of engineers. So we have Philip, who's our front-end engineer. We have Eugene, who's our smart contract engineer. Shimoon, who's our back-end engineer. And then we have Mihail and Ron, who are two of our engineers that are working on some special projects. And we also have two analyst researchers. Those are Vivek and Frank. And most proud, we just recently onboarded our own official Celsius X intern. His name is Abi, and he's currently a student at Harvard and is currently finishing up his studies. So anyway, that's our team. We're by and large an engineering and building team, and we're very much happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us, Jen.
No, definitely. I'm so glad that you were able to join. Thank you. CLG, not that you really need an introduction, but I was thinking that maybe you can just kind of tell your role within Chainlink and give anybody here, I think in order to really understand Celsius X and what they're aiming to do, I think for anybody unfamiliar with oracles and CCIP, maybe you might just be able to give us a little bit of a brief explanation of what they actually are as well.
Yeah, sure thing. Happy to be here. So I am ChainlinkGod. I'm a Chainlink community ambassador. So I'm kind of, think of it as like the middleware effectively. I help educate the community on all things Chainlink and kind of things going on in the DeFi ecosystem and everything happening in oracles for the most part. So that's kind of like in a way, like an oracle where people can query me with questions and then I can help answer them when I can. So yeah, kind of to set some context, effectively, with a broader picture, we have blockchain networks, and they're extremely powerful in terms of providing permissionless access to different decentralized applications that don't have middlemen or rent seekers or any other kind of value extractive processes, and really provide these decentralized applications that are a lot more trustless than what you see in the traditional economy. But kind of a fundamental problem of blockchains is that they're like a computer without an internet connection, effectively, where they're really secure around validating transactions, sending tokens around. But if there's any kind of application that requires data from the real world, if that's market data or if that's, weather data or if that's GPS location or whatever, blockchains, because their security model can't connect to the external world. So you need an additional piece of infrastructure known as an oracle or oracle networks. This effectively provides the middleware connecting blockchains like Ethereum and Polygon, Avalanche, all these different smart contract networks to the real world so that they can actually access the data they require. And when you put data on chain, that allows new applications to be created around that data. So this is kind of what we saw with Chainlink price feeds. That enables the creation of DeFi applications that consume market data, whether it's lending like Aave or Compound, or if it's derivatives like DYDX, or if it's synthetic assets like Synthetics, that effectively runs on Oracle data. But oracles can also do things like off-chain computation, things like verifiable randomness with VRF, or transaction automation with keepers. And then now they're stepping more into cross-chain interoperability. And so that's kind of what Chainlink announced with CCIP earlier this year, or the cross-chain interoperability protocol, which is effectively a open source standard for connecting different blockchains to each other. Because just like blockchains can't connect to real world data, they can't connect to other blockchains, meaning they're effectively these like isolated islands effectively. And, oracles like Chainlink connect all these islands together and connect it to other planets, so to speak. So cross-chain interoperability protocol is really focused on passing data between blockchains and passing tokens along with commands for those tokens. So you can have a lot of different unique applications there. And that's something that I'm sure Celsius X can step into as well, that enables a lot of interesting, cross-chain yield aggregation and a lot of different use cases. So oracles are effectively, they're fundamentally important for the entire ecosystem, and it's basically what enables numerous verticals like decentralized finance, dynamic NFTs, on-chain gaming. Oracles are kind of, the other half of the equation in addition to blockchain. So that's kind of like the not so short TLDR of oracles and CCIP.
That was amazing. Thank you. Carl, I see that you were able to join us. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm happy to have you here. I know that you're the chief architect. Maybe you might want to kind of introduce yourself. Josh introduced you a little bit while we were trying to get you on the call. But touching on what CLG was saying, maybe you can give us a little bit more information. CCIP isn't live yet, neither is Celsius X, on how they plan on using that, what it actually is, and what role that'll play within, what you're building, what you're creating.
Sure. Thank you, Jen. So Celsius really is a centralized entity that provides lending services for institutions as well as retail. Today, I want to focus on the retail side and also not on the centralized portion side, right? I was brought in as the chief architect, not to focus on the centralized portion, because very quickly after DeFi summer, Celsius realized the friction to go into DeFi is way too high. And if we all believe that the future lies within DeFi, then how do we reduce the friction to go into DeFi, right? And that's why Celsius X was established at my recommendation, so that Celsius X is essentially a somewhat autonomous division within Celsius to think about and as well as execute on strategies and development on how to reduce the friction, how to make liquidity move more freely, right? So if you think about this, it drives really well with Chainlink's mission regards to CCIP. I think it was back in September, we jointly announced that Celsius, in this particular case, Celsius X, really is going to be the first committed user for CCIP. And I think it's huge, right? So if you back up a little bit, today we have these bridges that are extremely primitive, right? So how they came about was, well, how do we suck liquidity from Ethereum so we can bootstrap our own blockchain? For example, Polygon, Avalanche, Solana, you name them, right? So they all built their own versions of bridges and they started bridging assets. It's not a bad thing. It's just it's extremely fragmented in the sense that how do you reason about liquidity efficiency, right? You have to lock up assets on both ends. And what's even worse is if you look at Solana's ecosystem, is that you have multiple versions of the tokens, and it has an extremely high friction for retail and people who want to get into DeFi, because guess what? You use the wrong bridge, you bridge into the wrong token, you need to do another swap, right? It's extremely inefficient, and it's this cannot be the optimal solution for the ecosystem, right? So at Celsius X, we've been thinking about, well, how do we help Celsius, for one? That's one of our customers. But I think for myself and for the team, more importantly, is how do we reduce the friction in which we can help this community bootstrap the DeFi ecosystem, right? So that's the mission of Celsius X, is really about building infrastructure for this entire ecosystem, so that we don't have to worry about, hey, like, how do you bridge tokens over? What bridge you need to think about is, if you actually look at CCIP, it's an extremely ambitious project, and it's very promising because CCIP doesn't talk about bridging, right? It's all about interoperability. So what is interoperability? Is the ability to communicate among different blockchains without worrying about the underlying technology, right? So one of the examples I had was, can we even imagine if you were trying to send somebody an email and you have to ask for two things, right? One, your email address, and two, what internet provider do you have? Because if it's not the right internet provider, I'm not going to be able to send you an email, right? So that's the current state of the blockchain, and it's changing because we're building bridges, but it's still not up to the standard that we believe that we should be at. So therefore, that's kind of where Celsius X lies, is we are building this infrastructure so we can mechanize the huge amount of liquidity for the entire community, right? And of course, it benefits Celsius at the end of the day, because if you look at Celsius, Celsius is a huge entity with billions of dollars of liquidity. We want to be able to move these liquidity cross-chain in a seamless way, right? So that's where the collaboration between CCIP from Chainlink and Celsius X was formed. And a little bit about myself. I'm Carl. I'm the chief architect at Celsius. I also run a very special team at Celsius called Celsius X. It's a highly autonomous team where we almost operate like a, I don't want to say a DAO, because we obviously belong to we're obviously part of Celsius, but it's got a lot of elements in which the team is extremely autonomous on what we want to build, right? Because we're at such a cutting edge technology, that cutting edge phase, that we believe that we are making things go, and we're changing the world. So that's what Celsius X is about. Yeah.
Thank you. I know I'm personally looking forward to Celsius X going live. Now, for your first version of Celsius X, without CCIP going live, how do you plan on using Chainlink? Because I know that you're still using Chainlink within Celsius X when it does launch.
Correct. Decentralization is a process, right? I was lucky enough to be part of a very special team early in 2017, where we built a first layer solution, and later on was acquired by Ripple. However, one of the lessons I learned that is decentralization is a process. As you said, the first version of the liquidity bridge does not have a decentralized version of this, though we are still trying to hold ourselves extremely accountable, right? So today, when we wrap tokens, we kind of just put, this industry standard is you put the token into a custodian, and then you just issue tokens on Ethereum or any sort of blockchain. What we're doing is we're actually utilizing the state-of-the-art proof of reserve system provided by Chainlink. What it does is, for example, if you wanted to wrap Dogecoin, we would establish a proof of reserve on a Dogecoin account and broadcast the data onto, say, the target blockchain, right? And we will actually establish a set of smart contract that will monitor ourselves. For example, if we have 50,000 Dogecoins, the smart contract would not allow us to mint more than 50,000 Dogecoin. So that's the first step. The second step, prior to using CCIP, is what I call the isomorphic proof of reserve. So the initial step is you could theoretically deposit Dogecoin into the Dogecoin blockchain, right? You just have an account and you do the proof of reserve. Now you're minting. We need another way to kind of hold ourselves accountable, meaning before we can withdraw some of the Dogecoin from the target blockchain, we need to be able to get data back, right? So because I don't know if the people on the team have watched the video. Essentially, we're using Ethereum's Enzyme Finance Vault as a registry. So before we can actually withdraw any of the token from the vault, we need to hold ourselves accountable. So isomorphic proof of reserve is actually a system holding ourselves accountable. So before we withdraw the tokens from the vault, it will check what is the amount after you withdraw. Now, if it's less than the amount that you've wrapped, it means that you're going to be under collateralized, and that will be prevented from. It will not be allowed. So this is a way to hold Celsius accountable for the tokens we're wrapping and we're bridging. So that's how we're going to use proof of reserve before CCIP comes out.
Awesome. Thank you. CLG, I don't know, do you have any questions for him? I mean, you're my Chainlink big brain here, as far as how they're going to be using Chainlink and proof of reserve and CCIP.
I think I can expand upon it a little bit. I think that this, a lot of token bridges, you deposit your tokens into a contract, and then the entity that kind of controls that custody contract can kind of just do whatever they want. They can mint as many tokens as they need, or just as many as they want, really. Well, Chainlink proof of reserve in this kind of V1 is like an additional layer of security, effectively, where you can't just infinite print tokens unbacked by anything, because the proof of reserve informs each blockchain effectively how many tokens are in custody and how many tokens are minted. So if you want to bridge like a link from Ethereum to Polygon, then you would have a Chainlink proof of reserve network fetching the reserve data from Ethereum, then putting that onto Polygon, which then determines how much could be minted there. And then likewise, like Carl mentioned, the isomorphic, it also prevents withdrawals if it would cause the token to be under collateralized effectively. So you're only able to withdraw the tokens that aren't being used in a wrapped format on another blockchain effectively. So it's like an additional layer of security. I think one question I do have for Carl is kind of what initial blockchains is this going to be deployed upon, and kind of how are you going to choose, which blockchain networks are going to be supported by this type of bridge?
Right, that's a really good question. So in the video that we published, we did, we're intentionally trying to make it not as obvious, but we did mention the initial blockchain that we'll be wrapping to is Polygon, because we believe that at the time, because this effort actually started about 5 or 6 months ago, and at the time we felt that Polygon is a very strong partner, and they're incentivizing the entire ecosystem using their Matic tokens as well. So I think there's significant opportunity for the community to get some yield. So Polygon would be the initial blockchain, but internally, as we move forward, I think 2 things will happen, right? One, I'm a believer of decentralization. So I think giving some of the power back to the community is extremely important. So one of the ways that we've been thinking about is potentially allowing community members to vote on the upcoming blockchains that we'll be implementing. And as part of that decentralization process, to me, when CCIP comes out, that will be the building blocks of decentralized bridging, right? Meaning today, in order for any retail to bridge from Ethereum to Polygon, you would need to go through Celsius centralized backend, just like a Coinbase backend, where you deposit and you withdraw. It's a pretty good solution to start, but I believe where we have to head towards is a decentralized world where people would come and deposit into the decentralized infrastructure that we'll be building, and they will be able to wrap the tokens themselves onto initially Polygon, right? Now, once we stand up that infrastructure, we will be able to allow the community to kind of vote and decide what are the other blockchains we want to support. The other thing is this community moves at an extremely fast pace. So you know, we're thinking that we're going to scale this very, very quickly after the initial launch.
So I have a couple of questions regarding what you said. First, you know, it kind of sounds almost like a DAO. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're putting your tokens onto, you know, into the protocol, into the platform, you're receiving a token in lieu of, and then you're voting with it. Is it kind of, am I jumping here, or is there maybe a DAO sort of thing works in the future?
Yeah, so I think the team has been, as you can see, the team is not a big team. By the way, if anyone wants to do some work for us, we're always hiring. Sorry, I have to jam this in such an early call, so because the people will start leaving after maybe 30 or 45 minutes. But the thing there is we're so busy, heads down building, we haven't really completed our design on how we would operate in the future, right? So I think that the number one priority today is actually getting this infrastructure out so people can start using it, and then how we mechanize the decentralized portion, not the technology part, because I think we have a pretty good handle on that, utilizing CCIP with the collateral managers sitting on all the chains with the registry somewhere, right? But the part is how do we empower this community to make decisions? We haven't really flushed that out. And the other thing is, if people have really good ideas, please give us feedback, because we are listening, right? So that's kind of the landscape today.
Cool. And then CLG asked about, you know, which blockchain you plan on deploying. What about which DeFi protocols? You know, I see Polygon blockchain, and then I see deploy and DeFi protocols. Do you have any specific ones in mind?
Yeah, so that part we will be we will be teaming up with some of the initial launch partners. But the idea here again, it's kind of similar to what ChainlinkGod said, is that we think of Celsius X as a middleware infrastructure builder, right? So obviously, infrastructure without adoption is just completely useless, right? So we will be bootstrapping the initial launch partners, though we have yet to finalize on that. However, the idea here is that we want adoption of this infrastructure. We want adoption of the wrap tokens, so that the community itself would instantiate pools on AMMs and lending platforms, and that's where we're at today.
Great, thank you. And then I have one more question, if you don't mind. The launch, you know, we had mentioned a couple of times when you launch and when you go live. Do you have any sort of an idea what the time frame might be for that?
Yes, we do. It's going to be first quarter of 2022.
Ooh, so coming up here soon.
Yeah, very soon. Obviously, one of the things is, due to my unique background, I tend to hold our team members to an extremely high level of rigor, right? A level of rigor is what is the process in which you create your products. Audits are great, but there's this thing where I used to work at NASA, and there was no such thing as we just do an audit on your fly software and we launch the spacecraft, right? So we're doing extensive testing, and the Chainlink so far has been great. Unless we find issues, I think we are on time to launch Q1 2022.
With strictly Polygon, correct?
Yes.
Cool. I don't know, should we open up to the community, you guys? Do you have any other questions personally or comments, CLG or Carl?
I think I have just like one general question is like in like the V2 model, what was the determining factors of why you gravitated towards using Chainlink's CCIP over any other kind of bridge implementation?
Yeah, so it's pretty trivial, right? It's one thing there is that in this industry, people tend to promise and not deliver, and it's happened over and over again. And if you look at the current state of the bridges, they're just, if you look at all the bridges, maybe there's one or two that are pretty okay, though they still largely remain to be what I call the self-serving bridge, right? So, and that's a philosophical issue with a lot of team members, is that if you look at Chainlink's CCIP, it does not say it's a bridge, right? It's an interoperability protocol. That's one. I think philosophically we're very aligned. And two is that if you look at Chainlink's infrastructure and Chainlink's ability to deliver, we believe that this stands a really good chance to compete. And Celsius is a regulated entity, right? And whatever technology that Celsius X chooses needs to have a certain standard as well as the level of rigor for making such product. And that's one of the that's two reasons why we chose CCIP as the initial launch partner.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think you brought up a good point that CCIP, first and foremost, it's an interoperability protocol. It's passing data packages across blockchains, and that allows teams like Celsius to build, bootstrap their own secure bridges on top of CCIP, kind of construct it to their needs and to the needs of your consumer base. But ultimately, it's like a low-level infrastructure, and then, people can build secure bridges on top of that. So I think, I think this is a powerful collaboration to be building a token bridge on top of CCIP.
Absolutely, because if you look at this, is that the first step is to bridge tokens, right? What is the next step? If we actually look at where this ecosystem is moving towards, is that different protocols have the desire to bridge their LP tokens right now. If you think about this, is that bridging LP tokens is easy, but what do you do with the settlement? For example, is the best example I can give is, for example, you have your position on Aave A tokens, and they allow you to bridge. Without CCIP, it will be a singleton design where now you're bridging A tokens. But guess what? When you bridge over that A token, no underlaying has been actually moved over, and they're not going to be able to scale. So they still need to find a different technology. In this particular case, they will probably go back to some other bridge to do the settlement. And very quickly, you're going to run into the same problem, is that capital inefficiency, right? So that they need to figure out, well, like when there's $200 million USDC being moved, what are you going to do if the bridge does not have enough capital locked up, right? Any swap already has this problem, is that if you bridge $100, they charge you a 0.1% fee, not a problem. But what if you want to bridge $200 million? They have to halt the network, not the halt the network in like they don't halt the network, sorry. What they do is they pause that transaction, right? They have to go and find the liquidity for you. And so I think in order for this ecosystem to get to a very cohesive and efficient state, we need something better, right? So we need interoperability that goes above and beyond just bridging a single token. So that's kind of the philosophy there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a powerful feature of kind of CCIP is that you can bridge, you can build token bridges on top, but also you can pass messages along with those tokens as well effectively. So I can kind of see a future where the Celsius X kind of token bridge would allow users to bridge tokens and then maybe also potentially in the future, pass along some commands on what to kind of allocate those tokens to. So I think, you could build secure bridges on top of CCIP, but it doesn't stop there. You can allocate the tokens in different ways and you can move you can abstract away a lot of the complexity, which is I think a key advantage.
Yeah, yeah, totally. The before we open up this, I've had conversations with Chainlink over and over again, and the recurring theme is that if you look at Chainlink, it's a blockchain agnostic information relayer, right? And for Celsius X, we want to build an infrastructure to a point where we leverage CCIP and Chainlink to be the blockchain agnostic liquidity provider, right? That's one customer of Celsius X, which is Celsius. Now, if we can get there because we're able to get there, now the entire ecosystem could use Celsius X infrastructure to achieve the same thing, which is you're able to move your assets without worrying about what blockchain you want to be on. And I think if we can achieve that, that would be a history making moment for all of us. So
Yeah, I 100% agree. Any way that the complexity of interacting with different chains can be abstracted away will be incredibly powerful. It'd be like almost like using CeFi, but you're using decentralized infrastructure. It just
right.
abstracts away all these, I don't have to think about what blockchain I'm using. I just interact with applications, which is like how the internet works. You don't think, am I using a server using Linux or, Windows? That doesn't matter.
Right.
They just interoperate with each other.
Right, right.
Thank you, guys. So it kind of sounds like although you're tied with Celsius, you're your own separate entity in a way. Is that right?
We're not our own separate entity today, though. We operate in such a fashion that we treat Celsius as a customer, a very large, probably the most important customer. But I think the interest is pretty aligned, which is, like I said, is the ability to move liquidity seamlessly.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for clarifying. Josh, I didn't notice who was the first to request. Is it just in order here? Are we good to open up to the community for any sort of questions?
Yeah, I think now would be an excellent time to have some community questions. Yeah, I don't know also if they're queued up based on request, but I'll keep track of that moving forward.
Okay,
So,
well, I apologize in advance to anybody if you were the first to request and I choose somebody over you. So I'm apologizing. Also, I will take a second to just ask that everybody is respectful of the guests that we have up here. And also, Josh, I think you wanted to quickly address the Badger incident. I think, we're going to, well, you go ahead.
yeah, so we can't say too much beyond from what was in the official Celsius announcement on the Twitter page concerning Badger. We can say, though, that that was not with regards to a matter of Celsius X. We're an entirely separate project. We're building technology, as Carl mentioned. So yeah, just if we want further information, please go to the official Celsius network page.
And if we could avoid price discussion, that's always a thing. So let's avoid that and kind of stick to the topic at hand. That would be awesome. Okay, let's see here. Let's have Cellcat. I'm going to approve you. You should have, there you are. How are you doing? We can.
Perfect. Okay, so forgive me for this question because this might be something you guys are not able to answer yet, but gonna shoot my shot anyways. Is there any way you guys can speak on the way that Cell token might be integrated?
Carl, that's all you.
Yeah. So the overall idea, I think I touched on this, is that when you're building, so if you look at Chainlink, they are a middleware, right, and decentralized, and they're providing infrastructure. And then you look at Celsius X, we're building on top of them, and without disclosing too much, and without getting myself in trouble, is that yes, that's definitely something that's we're looking into, right? For example, some of the governance stuff, as well as potentially if we do have opportunity to monetize this, which today we're not even thinking about that, because we believe when you build stuff, when people come, you get adoption opportunities will show up, right? But that's definitely something that we've been thinking that we desire as a company.
I just had a yeah, sorry for asking that question. I know it's probably a little far out. I had a bunch of Celsians. When they saw the DAO thing, I saw a ton of Celsians light up with the question of, is it possible that Cell may become a DAO one day?
Yeah, so is it possible? Yes, I believe a lot of things are possible. Now, is that the correct structure? I cannot answer, though. For myself, I believe in a decentralized future, right? For example, I think one of the things is that I think governance, for example, voting for stuff, is a very powerful initial step that we could potentially consider. Though I think even talking about that is saying too much. So I will shut up now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cellcat, for your question. Appreciate it. I'm going to remove you as a speaker. And let's see, Santos, I'm going to call you up. Give me just a moment here. Okay, you should be able to, wait, there you are. You should be able to speak.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, everyone. I've been buying a Cell token using Dharma on the Polygon blockchain just to pay less gas fees. Will there be a possibility for me to, let's say, transfer my Cell token to Celsius using the Polygon blockchain?
So in this particular case, you're thinking of having Cell tokens on Polygon, which I think there's already a POS bridge that allows for that. So what you're asking is that if Celsius would accept Polygon version of the Cell token and allow you to do deposit, right? I just want to make sure I
Correct,
understand
yes.
the question correctly. Yes. So internally, again, Celsius X is on the DeFi side, right? So what you're asking essentially is a listing question. Will Celsius list Cell tokens on Polygon? That's definitely a possibility. It just needs to go through the listing committee, right, which has its own legal implications and so forth. So I apologize, but I'm not able to comment on that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your question. Also, I was told that my volume is really high compared to everybody else's. I hope that this is better. And if not, somebody send me a message here. I'm going to take you off of your speaker role. Jason, I'm going to give you the floor. Give me just a moment, guys. Okay, Jason, you've got the floor now.
Thank you, Jen, CLG, Carl, and Joshua. Thank you for doing this for us and letting us know all this information. Santos kind of just hit on my main question. My other question is all right, Celsius just invested in 1inch. Are they going to play a role in Celsius X with going forward?
Yeah, so 1inch, so what 1inch does is essentially they route orders in a decentralized fashion. I think they're also integrating into some of the CEFI institutions. We forward looking, we believe that that will be one of the potential strategic partners there, right? Because if you want to be able to move liquidity in a seamless way, you're already dabbling into that type of ecosystem already, though we don't have any solid plans at this point.
Cool. Thank you, guys. And again, appreciate the space that you provided for us.
Thank you so much for listening in and for joining us. Appreciate it. I'm going to remove you as a speaker. Let's see, Soldeck Christie. I think that's your name. I'm going to get you up here next. Did I do that right? Let's see. Okay, sure. Yes, you're clear.
Cool. Cool. All right. Yeah, that was one of my questions that I had was because Polygon has its own Celsius token, which is supposedly supposed to be 1-to-1 on the price of Cell, which is on the Celsius app. I understand you don't have an answer for that, but my secondary question was this: was would we be able to transfer stablecoins? That's USDC, USDT, back and forth. One of my friends who I onboarded onto Celsius asked me that question. She said, "Can I transfer my USDC from Celsius to Polygon?" I said, "No, you have to bridge through Ethereum." And of course, when she saw the gas fees, she basically jumped out of her chair. So that's the question. Can we, once this is launched, will we be able to transfer stablecoins back and forth on layer 2?
Yeah, really good question. So if you look at this from a technology perspective, is once Celsius is wrapping tokens onto a Polygon, and users will be able to deposit the wrap tokens from Polygon and then withdraw this onto Ethereum to start, right? From a technical perspective, if you look at this, is we now have a comprehensive infrastructure that would support essentially any token on Polygon, right? Not only that, because of the EVM nature of the technology, we can essentially support a lot of other EVM chains as well. Though, again, Celsius X is building this technology. We will be building the backend. We already have the backend. As a matter of fact, we're doing testing. Then this becomes a listing question, right? Will Celsius list the USDC on Polygon? So then what people can do is people can deposit USDC on Polygon and withdraw on Ethereum. By the way, Celsius does not charge a fee when you withdraw on Ethereum. So essentially that becomes the de facto, the cheapest. Essentially it's a free bridge, right? Which even eliminates the fees for you, though you do need to go through the KYC side of things. However, when it comes to listing, I'm not going to be able to comment on this, but from a technical perspective, Celsius will have that capability from the moment that we launch, and that becomes a thing where the community can definitely ask Celsius to list USDC. Though one thing I want to point out is when you think about moving the liquidity in a seamless fashion, I include USDC as part of that, right? So apologize, but that's the most I can give today.
Yep, that's good enough. I look forward to your launch and very, very excited that you guys chose Polygon. So awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to remove you. JCC, you are up next. Okay, you are up. You seem
Hello,
to be
can you
muted.
hear me?
Oh, yes, now we can.
Oh, great. So I was saying congrats to everybody on pushing innovation. This is great. Very excited about it. And I wanted to know, basically, is this kind of like a game changer? Does this increase the deployment opportunities for Celsius almost exponentially versus the current capabilities?
Yeah, so I work in technology, right? And I have my own belief system, such as I want everything to be somewhat, the more decentralized it is better without sacrificing too much efficiency, right? But if you look at the end, so like the end game is that now not only Celsius, and I've emphasized this throughout the call, is Celsius is a very big user of this infrastructure. Is the end game is that any retail can move liquidity very easily across blockchains. And when that happens, I believe the overall opportunity for the entire ecosystem will increase, right? So that's kind of the idea there.
Okay, so if retail can benefit directly through this, if I'm understanding correctly, what is the benefit to Celsius, the company, and maybe tied to that, and going back to a comment that you made around the cell token, where you said that you were looking for ways to monetize things around the cell token. Did you mean monetizing specifically talking about deployment, or monetize it in a different way?
Yeah, it's just to be clear, when as a monetization opportunity, it's not for cell token, right? It's for the infrastructure. Just like how Chainlink provides a service where they charge in link tokens, right? The idea there is that the benefits for Celsius is that if you think about this, why does Tesla, and for those of you that follow me, I only have one follower. I'm only following one person on Twitter, and that's Elon Musk, right? So that's why I'm using Tesla as an example. But if you look at Tesla, why do they open up their patents to the ecosystem, right? So it's the same. It's like the same lines of thinking, is that if Celsius benefits from this, and also everyone else benefits from this, why don't we do it, right? So once we do this, there's always people that don't want to manage their private keys, right? For example, my grandma, my mom, my dad, they will never be able to manage their private keys, right? So there's always a playground for Celsius. And overall, if we can make this ecosystem better as a whole, then why not do it, right? So that's kind of the rationale here.
Great. Thank you so much, guys.
Yep.
Thank you. I have a question. Somebody DM'd me, if I could just step my way in here really fast. They said, I'd like to know if CCIP will enable Celsius X to raise the APY more in line with so-called degenerate DeFi strategies like how Midas does.
So now we're going to speculative arena. I DJ into stuff myself. I don't believe for 1 second if we say, okay, yeah, with this infrastructure, you're able to do some, we are going to be able to increase APY indirectly, right? Because when there's more opportunities across the entire ecosystem, and you reduce the friction in which you can deploy, I think the immediate result there is that, not immediate, right? Because it takes time for any company to adjust any of the stuff. And also it's something that we don't like to talk about. But I think generally for the entire ecosystem is, imagine crypto.com has their own chain, and it's extremely hard to get on their chain. That's why some of the tokens are earning 75%, 20, 200%, when on Polygon, you're only earning 15%, right? So I think generally when you have that infrastructure there, you will be able to get better yield.
Great, thank you. And to the one that DM'd me, I hope that answers your question. Okay, DO Brands, I'm going to go ahead and bring you up as a speaker. JCC, I'm going to remove you.
off-ramp of Cell. It would be amazing if you can directly deposit like your fiat assets into crypto and back. Any progress on that?
I apologize. I'm not able to comprehend here. There's quite a bit of background noise.
The question was concerning the Celsius fiat on-ramp. Currently, that's still on track for this month, as Alex has stated in the various AMAs.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and bring you up, so stand by.
Thank you, Jen. And I was just about to DM you too of the question. Quick question. Another Celsius asked me: is Celsius X going to create their own token?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear? Yeah. Oh, now I can.
Yeah, so I was instructed not to discuss this.
Okay, I understand that. No, it's cool. And this one quick other question you probably can't discuss
By
either.
the way,
Is there?
By the way, I used to work at Ripple, so I'm very sensitive to discussing tokens.
Trust me, I understand everything. And is there this one you probably can't discuss, but I just want to ask it so everyone else. Is there any plan of Celsius or Celsius X doing a stable coin?
I cannot comment.
Okay, that's perfect. Sorry, Carl.
That's all right. Thank you.
Awesome. Did we get through the all the community Q&As, Jen? It looks like
we did not. No, I just brought Jay Crypto up. Where is he? No, looks like he's not. Do we have time for one or two more questions, you guys?
Yeah.
CLG, are you good on time?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, cool. Let's see then. I'm going to bring up Jimmy. Jimmy, you should be good. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, you're good. Jimmy McBig Mac, you are up. Jimmy, you there? Looks like he's connecting. Okay, in the meantime, I have a question from somebody that DM'd me. Does Celsius have any plans to run a Chainlink node?
It's yes. Well, not yes, but it's very attractive, right? We believe in building into infrastructure, so it will be it aligns well with the whole plan of using CCIP. So it's definitely something that we're discussing, right? Though currently it's still in the very early stage.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, looks like Brian requested, and then I may have one more question here. So Brian, I'm going to go ahead and bring you up. Maybe not. It looks like it went from request to invite. So if I invited you by accident, my apologies. Let's see, I have one more. CLG, this one is for you. What do you think of a centralized company being a bridge?
I think in this aspect, in the initial implementation, it's going to have guardrails in a sense, through using Chainlink Proof of Reserve. So in a sense, there are centralized aspects to the pieces of infrastructure, but it's kind of, this centralized entity is kind of held in check through the Chainlink Proof Reserve, and that's kind of the first version. So they can't do infinite minting of unbacked tokens, and they can't withdraw tokens that are already being used as minted tokens. So it's kind of more of a, I would say it's more of like a trust minimized version. And I think ultimately, once it's kind of shifted towards CCIP, then the bridge itself would be running on decentralized infrastructure, even though it's supported by a centralized entity. But the underlying infrastructure that users interact with and how it's secured would be decentralized infrastructure. And like was mentioned, that there could be potential for more of like a DAO style type governance kind of over how the bridge, like the functionalities the bridge has and like the blockchain network supported. And so I think it's kind of like a progression, the becoming more decentralized over time, but kind of because Chainlink Proof of Reserve and then Chainlink CCIP is used for like the core pieces of the infrastructure in terms of security, it's a lot more trust minimized than if it was just, something like if you were just depositing funds into a single private key, and then that private key holder, decides to mint tokens on another chain, or they don't, or they mint infinite amount of tokens with the checks and balances through Chainlink Oracle networks. It's a lot more trust minimized. So I think it's less of a concern, and over time, as it decentralizes more, it becomes it shifts more and more towards the decentralized end of the centralization to decentralization kind of spectrum. So I think it's not a huge concern, but it's always more decentralization comes over time, and that's always that's the best way to protect user funds.
Kind of put you in the hot seat, but great answer. Thank you. Hex, I'm going to bring you up, and I think that'll be our last speaker here. Now it looks like it goes from request to invite. So if I'm doing that by accident, or if it's switching, then I apologize to everybody. We may very well have answered all of the questions from the community. If you have any more, please request now. Otherwise, I don't know if Carl or CLG, you guys have anything to add to it, but I know I've personally learned a lot, and I've been getting a lot of people DMing me and thanking us for hosting the spaces and appreciating how much information you guys have given. So thank you on behalf of everybody listening. We do appreciate your time and your explanations for everything.
Yeah, one more thing, Jen, before we go. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here, is that we need all sorts of talents to join us and build this infrastructure. So if you're one of the talented developers, or even if you're not a developer, for example, you're really good at DeFi, please, if you're interested, send us an email. And the email address is X, the letter X, at Celsius.network, and that goes directly to Josh.
Awesome. Jason, you have one more question. I'm going to bring you back up, and then I think we'll probably wrap it up there. Let me add you as a speaker. All right, go for it.
To Josh and Carl, if you need anyone and you as a user to test this new product, the ambassadors are all ready and waiting to get into Celsius X, guys. We'll be the guinea pigs.
Yeah, please send us an email, x@celsius.network, and then we'll go from there. Josh will be the intake, and we do need all the help we can get.
Awesome. You got a lot of people waiting for you guys to launch. It's exciting, and it's exciting that you're using Chainlink. So thank you again, everybody. Unless anyone has anything else to add, I think we'll probably wrap it up.